I think it's kind of like sponsorship. When you sponsor someone, like a newcomer thinks they're getting the help, but in all reality, the sponsor is really getting the most help out of it, you know?
Like Bill W. used to say, if you sponsor correctly, you will still be sober at the end of the sponsorship.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything about the sponsee staying
Yeah.
sober.
Yep.
He would go out, this is even before AA started, he would go out with Bob and they would talk to alcoholics in hospitals. And they really saw it as so crucial to maintaining their own sobriety that they made it like an integrated part of Alcoholics Anonymous. So this is really one of the things that the helper therapy principle comes from, is that experience of one person helping another. It's about maintaining my own sobriety, right? So yeah, for sure. So what are some of the ways that we practice the helper therapy principle at Share? What does that look like in practice? What are the day-to-day ways that people get a chance to get the benefits of helping?
Maybe like at a house, like if someone wants to go to a meeting but doesn't know what kind or is scared to go to one, you tell them, well, Susan, right here, your roommate's been to the meeting. And then Susan will come on and be like, yeah, maybe we can go to one together.
Yeah, and then Susan feels really good because she got to be kind of the guide and showing the person like how to get there and stuff like that. That's a good example. Anyone else have an example? How we might use the helper therapy principle at Share? So, for example, we invite people to do the maintenance at Share, to clean the facility, and then we thank them for doing that. And we help them see how important their contribution is. And we have a thank you board where we thank folks for helping out. These are all ways that we're practicing this principle.
I love that idea of a thank you board. Like, that is awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome, and it always looks good. It's really good. Okay, so keeping an eye on the time. One of the things that we want to keep in mind is that the person who gets the most benefit is the one who perceives that they're helping. This is definitely built into self-help support groups. Like in a self-help support group, what are some of the ways that someone can help out? Anyone have any thoughts?
By sharing their experience.
Absolutely. Sharing their experience, strength, and hope. What else?
Coffee commitment.
They could take a commitment. Coffee, greeter, chips, secretary, treasury. What else?
Take someone to a meeting. Drive
They
them to
could
the
take
meeting.
someone to a meeting. They could just show up and be a witness. That in itself is helping others. So everybody in that group, everyone who comes, is contributing on some level. Every single person in that meeting is making some type of contribution, even if it's as simple as showing up and putting their butt in the chair and listening. And this is sort of the value of self-help support groups that is very foundational at Share, because we want everybody that comes to Share to be acknowledged for whatever contribution they're making, even if it's just showing up that day. Everyone is making a contribution. We want to be aware when we're doing all the helping and the other people are not. So one key question that we want to keep in mind is, are you letting the person help you, or are you encouraging them to help others? If we can do those two things, then the person will get the benefit of this helper therapy principle, which then combats all of those negative messages that our society is giving people. This is one of the ways that we invite people back into the human family. We help them see that they have real value and purpose. And that coffee commitment could save somebody's life. Just as coming and vacuuming Share, like we had two people who wanted to fight because one person wanted to vacuum and the other person said, no, that's my job. And you might think, well, that's really weird because Vacuuming is not a very pleasant thing to do, but we were not talking about vacuuming. We're talking about dignity. We're talking about having a reason to live. And when you see it in those terms, fighting for that makes sense.
The coffee commitment helped keep me in AA when I started off, because I was like, I don't want to go to a fucking meeting. And I'm like, but I know they're relying on me. You know, if I'm not there to make the coffee, who's going to do the coffee?
You
So
better show up because we need that coffee, and it's really
yeah,
important. My friend used to go to a lava lamp meeting, where they would have these lava lamps, you know, from like the 60s. They're like these tubes, and they have this weird like stuff in there, and you turn it on and it starts floating around. And you had to show up early so the lava lamps would have time to show up. And this kept her in recovery because she had to show up early to the meeting to turn the lava lamps on, and it kept her coming back. So these kinds of commitments are really important. We want to build these commitments in to the work that we're doing at Share as well. When you help others, how does it make you feel? Does anyone have an example?
Well, when I first got into AA, and sorry, I don't have my earphones anymore. They just went dead. But it was out east, and there were many people that were retired. They knew Bill W. and all that. But one of the things out there that I found interesting is that they just gave you a commitment. If you showed up at a meeting, right, they didn't know who you were. They said, "Oh yeah, you are the, fill in the blank cookie person," right? And so what that did for me immediately was that, I didn't feel like an outsider. All of a sudden, I was an insider. I had something to do. Those are actual assignments. I haven't seen that here where they do that, but I mean, I think that was pretty extraordinary. That was across the board too. They did that. So it was really helpful for me in the beginning.
Fantastic. I love it. You felt like an insider. Anyone else have an example of what it feels like when you help others?
I feel capable.
What else you got?
Useful. Yeah.
Useful. What else?
a sense of purpose.
Some people even see this in spiritual terms, like this is God's destiny for me. God has a purpose for me, and I'm fulfilling my purpose right now.
Doing God's will, yeah.
They see it as a spiritual contribution that God wants them to make. So this is very different than the message of you're less than, you're unskilled, you're useless, and you don't have any friends. We want the people that we're serving to have this experience, just as we've benefited from it. We want them to have that experience as well. I remember when we built the Tranquility Room, we had to have it painted, and a homeless man was coming around, and he painted, I think, yeah, it was the Tranquility Room. He did a great job. And I used to watch him every time he came to share. He would go and look at the Tranquility Room. He wouldn't go in, he'd just look in, because he knew that he painted it. Like it meant something to him. It was real. It was a concrete thing that he accomplished. And he didn't have a lot of other accomplishments to look at, but he had that. It meant a lot to him, even though you might say, well, okay, that's not right. You get some homeless guy to paint your rooms for you. No, we're not doing it because we want to exploit him, although we do need the help. But it's like we're doing it because it gives people meaningful roles. And that's super, super important. This is how we keep from becoming Mashop the Good Giant. You know, the Great Spirit has instructed us that sometimes we have to turn into a whale and swim away, which I think is a kind of extreme boundary. To me, that's like setting the boundary way over there. Maybe we don't have to go to that extreme of actually turning into a whale in order for people to get this benefit of contributing to the community and being part of the medicine circle of life. That's what the help with therapy principle is all about. It's really vital.